How do you recruit a world-class team of gaming artists, developers, and engineers for your crypto gaming project from large game publishers such as Blizzard and Riot Games? How do you find and pitch crypto VC investors and get them interested in your project? We have an exciting interview with Chandler Tomlinson, the founder of Sparkadia. He's been able to raise capital from top-tier venture capital firms, Animoca Brands, Cyphermion, Jump Capital, and Alameda Research. In this interview, he's going to share some tips and strategies that you can use to help your own project, share your vision, recruit a world-class team, and also find and pitch investors. Hey everyone, we have on Chandler. He's the founder of Sparkadia, and one of his first titles is Eden Brawl. They're on a mission to be the first truly competitive, esport-ready, AAA level blockchain game. We're going to be interviewing him, and he's going to be sharing some valuable insights on blockchain gaming, how he was able to work with top-tier investors that you may have heard of and love, like Animoca Brands, Shima, Cyphermion, Yield Guild Games, Alameda Research, Jump Capital, and more. Chandler, thanks for hopping on.
No, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to do this.
Nice. Is there anything that I missed in your introduction and just how you want to introduce yourself, what you're working on? Because absolutely impressed with your background.
No, thank you. Honestly, no, that was a great intro. I think there's we always run into the common marketing issue. We have so much going on that it's like, what do we actually properly communicate of what we're doing? And so yeah, the short of it is we're building out what we call Sparkadia. And Sparkadia is an ecosystem of a bunch of interconnected games. And you did a perfect description of Eden Brawl as our first game. So nice. It's really about how all these games end up tying together and building what we think is obviously the best take on blockchain gaming possible.
Walk me through, how did you come up and right, we are a marketing agency, and the problem is that too many founders have this very grand vision. They send over a long white paper. It's like, I really just want to know in one short, concise sentence, and you nailed it with Eden Brawl. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, I mean, transparently, I appreciate the kind words. I'm not sure we have nailed it yet because we still get a lot of questions of like, hey, which is which? And then you throw in our studio name, which is World Spark Studios, and people are like, okay, now I'm completely lost. So I think for us, it was how do all these things tie together and making sure that they all link like kind of logically in one way. And I think once you kind of set this tone of, hey, it's a hub and spoke, and Sparkadia is the hub and each individual spoke is games and Eden Brawl is a game, that all of a sudden it starts like, I think helping people visualize it is what you're doing and kind of making analogies and metaphors, I think is what's gone the longest way for us. And as soon as we came up with the arcade analogy, I think it really started for clicking for people. And it's like, hey, look, all we're building is an arcade, and we're building the lobby of the arcade, which is our quote unquote metaverse, dare I say the word. And then we're building a bunch of individual arcade machines. And as soon as like we kind of explain that, people are like, oh, okay, cool. I love arcades. And it starts to click. And from there, it's just, can you sell them on the idea of exactly what those arcade machines do?
Very nice. And so Chandler, what's your background, and even how did you assemble this like dream team of talents, right? You have engineers, artists, marketers from Riot Games, Blizzard, Pixar. Yeah. Walk us through the background.
Stumbly, or I guess, haphazardly is how I assembled that. So my background is not in game development at all. I was just a boring IT consultant for like 12 years. Did a bunch of work there, but I had always wanted to make games. I knew at some point in my life, I was going to be making video games. And so about 6-7 years ago, I started working on, it was called Circuits and Shields at the time, just started working on a game. And I said, hey, how hard can making a game really be? I've got, an extra 10-15 hours a week. I've got an extra 20 grand laying around. I'll go make a game. And it turns out it takes way more than 10-15 hours a week, and it takes way more than 20 grand. It took 6 years of my life, and a lot more than 20 grand, obviously. So just really built up this game, hiring a bunch of freelancers and just running it and slowly building it up through community growth and feedback, and just building the game over time. And then it wasn't until last December that we got investment. We closed a $3 million seed round. And that was the catalyst. That was when I started reaching out. I literally just cold emailed or cold messaged everybody on LinkedIn. and said, hey, we're raising money, or we have raised money. I think you could be a good fit for this. Let's have a conversation about what we're building. And it took thousands of messages, but then we kind of started slowly assembling this team. So no silver bullet, just a lot of relentless cold calling. There's no secret.
So how did you meet your initial team? You mentioned building up the community. Where exactly was your team?
Yeah. So the first wave, we worked with probably about 240 plus freelancers over the course of 6 years. Some contributions bigger than others, but it was really just reaching out. I would spend like all day on ArtStation, for example, and I would find all the people that was like, hey, I like this style of art. And I would send them a message and say, hey, I would love for you to do some work for us. Here's what we're doing. Here's the project. Here's what I can pay. That was always the biggest hiccup in the process because it wasn't a lot. And some people said yes. And we just slowly built it up over time. And so we just used ArtStation, we used LinkedIn, we used forums, and just kind of like freelancer websites. Fiverr, I've probably paid a ton of people $5 for things on Fiverr, which is a great resource as well. And that's how we put together that initial prototype. And, admittedly, I think it showed that it was put together by a bunch of different disparate groups where it was just me and then 240 individual people. And I think the biggest thing about building a studio in the last 8 months is it's starting to be me and everybody else, and we're all one cohesive thought. And I think that's really starting to show as the game actually comes together now. So it's been amazing to see that progress.
That's incredible. So, understanding the process to finding some of these top tier blockchain gaming investors that you have already known, like what was the pitch? How did you approach them?
Yeah.
What were they looking for even?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think we started pitching probably in like February, March of last year. And we originally weren't a blockchain game. We were originally just going to be a Web2 game. The whole ecosystem idea of Sparkadia didn't really exist. And we went out and pitched, and we had a lot of people look at the game and be like, okay, whoa, you did this for $200,000. This is incredible. This is one of the better alpha games I've ever played. However, who are you? Like who is Chandler Thomas? I've never heard of this. And who's on your team? What guarantees do I have that you'll succeed? And so we kind of struck out with a lot of the gaming investors and the gaming publishers, and then had a few conversations in the space. And they were like, hey, Chandler, what do you ultimately want to do here? And I would kind of tell like my background of like, hey, I used to sell World of Warcraft accounts, and I really like this idea of building communities and bringing people together. And they're like, have you thought about Web3? And I'm like, oh, NFTs. Oh, no. I hate it because all of us hardcore Web2 gamers, that's what we think. And it's just the optics of the situation right now. But as we really started talking about it, and it's like, wait a second, that's what NFTs can do. That's what blockchain can do for us. That's how we can build a community. What if we linked all these things together and we really stressed player value and we were still free to play and all these things? And what if we didn't sacrifice kind of our hardcore gaming roots? We could do that. And so we put together kind of this idea of an ecosystem. And honestly, once we started pitching that to Web3 investors, it was really, really quick. And I think what those investors saw is a game. This wasn't an idea. This wasn't a vision. It was a game. And we were still figuring out some parts of the vision and some parts of the ecosystem, but we had what was already one of the most complete, best blockchain games out there. And I think people saw that. And I think that's why we succeeded so quickly.
Agreed. Chandler, from the investing side of it, the fact that people have visions, but the execution part of it and the fact that you did it really sets yourself apart from a lot of different games. And
we went backwards for sure.
So when designing that game, some of the most successful titles we've seen have very strong tokenomics or some kind of play structure that gets people excited and could be this next evolution. Can you walk us through on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people talk. You literally just said the words that make perfect sense to me. Is this next evolution of kind of gaming economies? And I think we saw this transition of free to play, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, where everybody used to pay 50, 60 bucks for a game, or God, what was it, like 30 bucks back in the day? Those were the days. And then free to play came out and people were like, absolutely not. Like, this is a terrible idea. And then League of Legends came out, and then a couple other games came out that were free to play, and it slowly just caught wind. And it's like, now free to play is the standard. I accidentally hit my mute button. Sorry about that. I think Web3 will eventually have the same effect. People will realize that this is the next logical step for gaming economies, this idea of ownership. And so we really have to accelerate and find ways to convince users the same way that free-to-play games did back in the day, that this is the next step. And how do you do that? Well, one, you can't make what I call a cliff. You have to make a bridge. You cannot have people go from free-to-play economies to, hey, you're earning money and making a living playing these games, but the game is, it's whatever, but you're making money. That's a cliff. What we think it has to be is a bridge. We want to convince people of like, hey, did you know this is a Web3 game? You played for 10 hours. You didn't even know, did you? And that's how you start introducing people into these concepts. And it's this idea of, hey, I'm playing this game. I have no idea it's a Web3 game. And I just got an NFT. What the hell's an NFT? I hate the word NFT. I don't want to use this, but our menus pop up and it's like, hey, you don't have to use this if you don't want to. Hit this button to sell it. And they're like, wait a second, I can sell this for $10. That's unique. I've never been able to do that in League of Legends and Call of Duty. And that's how you really build that bridge. You slowly convince people that, hey, this is a game worth playing and this is utility. And you're not here to make a living. You're here to play and have fun, and you're here to just enjoy yourself. And sometimes you're going to make money from it. And that's a cool feeling. That's asset ownership to us.
Wow. And then specifically, how would you structure the tokenomics and even the launches, the selling of the NFTs, like what unique structures are you seeing that's out there?
Yeah. So when we originally pitched in our seed round, we got a lot of great feedback on the game, but everybody's pushback, the only pushback we ever got was, hey, what's your tokenomics? Like, what is your plan for your token economy? Or like, you know what, we'll figure that out. We promise. And we did. We went out and hired a firm called Economics Design. And we went through like a big, long consulting engagement with them. Huge fans, highly recommend. They put out some crazy research that I only understand half the words in, but it's smart. And basically we worked with that group and we sent them this big, giant document that was basically like word vomit of, here's what we want our economy to be. Here's how we want players to feel when they play our games. Here's the accomplishments that we want players to have. Here's the general structures of things we like. Here's the things that we're completely against. And here's the ranking of importance of that. And we said, okay, figure it out. And we worked with them really, really closely to slowly start solving those problems. And we identified a lot of issues, namely accessibility and scalability / sustainability, kind of the same thing. In current Web3 economies, and we really set out to solve those problems. And honestly, the funnel always goes back to, are people playing the game for fun? Will people continue to come play the game no matter what? And then building an economy around that. So our economy assumes that people have utility and derive value from just playing because they enjoy it. And so putting together the economy was just kind of a battle to really have it work with that. And I think what we've come out with, and I would highly encourage anyone, shameless plug, to go check out our white paper, because I think we've built one of the most complex Web3 economies, but it's also one of the most simple, because a Web2 gamer will immediately pop in and be like, oh, this is familiar. And I think that was really the key for us.
Wow. So interesting. So did you take that first principles approach then, where you said this is what you want people to feel to accomplish what they want? And how did you come up with that? Is that from your initial, or are you getting feedback from users, or all of the above?
Yeah, honestly, it was mostly me. I'm very opinionated. I've been playing games my entire life. And I've always had opinions on economies. My favorite part of video games has always been economies. I mentioned like I used to buy and sell World of Warcraft accounts. I would just do this all day. I would play the account for a few hours and then go sell it because I made enough progress that it would be worth more money than when I bought it. And so I was like, to me, that's asset ownership. That was Web3 before Web3 ever existed. And I was really involved in like Diablo auction house and Diablo 2 trading and all this stuff. That's just what I love to do. And so I had a lot of opinions on kind of how games should go and how games should proceed. And we also have a really, really great internal economy director, Daniel Paez, who worked at Blizzard and did like a bunch of like the Overwatch monetization, the Hearthstone monetization, the Call of Duty monetization, and then also spent some time at Big Time. So he was this rare unicorn of, hey, I know traditional games and I also know Web3 games. And so we kind of combined, with our powers combined, we came up with these preferences and these rules that we wanted to live by. And it's super important for us as a studio and as an ecosystem, optics. I use the word so often. It's about selling this idea to our players and our audiences that we are different. and you can't have moments and you can't have things in the ecosystem of like, hey guys, we're this super player value focused, we're free to play, all of this, but you have to buy this NFT to play a game like that. Like you can't do that. And so it was building those pillars around those ideas of making sure we were seen in the light that we wanted to be seen.
That's great. Chandler, I'm learning a lot on this. And so I see hundreds of projects a week, and your execution really sets you apart. Your team, the fact that you do have that experience, like walk me through when you're bringing on this experienced team member from Blizzard, worked with some of these successful titles. We've seen a wave of VC money fund the previous Web2 gamers that have had billion-dollar mobile gaming titles and now they want to build onto Web3. But how are you bringing in these team members? Like walk me through the exact specifics for other people to learn like how to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's not really a silver bullet. I think what our huge advantage, and our advantage always has been, we have a game. I did the legwork and I showed like I actually care about this. Like my entire life is kind of, I'm not giving this up anytime soon. I think that's pretty obvious. And I think that really helped people get on board. And then I think the second part of it was, as we started this outreach and as we talked to folks, it was like, what's our unique selling point? Like, okay, we're building this cool ecosystem. We've got this really cool game, but like, why would someone want to leave Riot to come work on our game? And I think over time, we really developed this idea of building an IP. So we are building more than just a game. We're building an IP, transmedia, anime, TV, books, comics, you name it. That's what we want to do. And we want to build a world and a universe that supports all of that. And so we slowly came up with this idea for an IP, and it just got better and better and better. And I think we slowly started to convince people of like, don't you want to work on this? Like, doesn't this sound like a good time? And so the quote that I always give in this instance is our chief creative officer is Edmundo Sanchez. And for those who don't know him, he was the 10th ever employee at Riot. He was there literally since the start. If you know the champion, Dr. Mundo, it's named after him. He's that famous. And he told me, he's like, Chandler, I kind of want to draw more weird stuff. I want to draw funky, wacky things. I don't want to draw muscles anymore. I don't want to draw anime girls anymore. Like those things, for the record, I play all those games. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But he was like, I want to draw something funny and I want to tell happy stories. And I think you can kind of see, I don't know if this is a video content, but if you check out our website, or if you check out, anything that we're doing, our characters are weird. And so I think that was super, super important to us, was let's tell happy stories and let's make the world a brighter place. That's really where the name WorldSpark came from. And people really started latching on to that idea of being a part of that.
Your vision and like your energy and like your passion for this, like truly, I mean, we've had on some great guests before. Animoca Brands, like, yeah, it was our last conference, Yield Guild Games, and you could hear it before this Web3 craze. This was their life in gaming before, understanding asset ownership, playability, caring first about the users and what they enjoy. And yeah, those are some of the principles that we could see why you've been so successful. So
I appreciate that. I really do.
Good stuff. Well, anything else you want to share, and even just like highlight your game and just how can people follow you?
So we are doing a huge marketing push right now. We've been notoriously quiet pretty much our entire history up until about 2 weeks ago. So we just started marketing. We just started releasing a ton of footage. We just released a brand new gameplay trailer. Again, shameless plug. We have an NFT launch on Monday, literally in 4 days. I think we're launching on Rarible. So I would really encourage anyone listening to go check that out. But honestly, I always give kind of my impassioned speech at the end of all of these is just keep supporting this ecosystem, keep supporting Web3. And even if not Web3, keep supporting indie gaming. I talk a lot about that we are an indie studio with a AAA quality. And it's really this idea that I would not be here if a couple members in our community did not continue to encourage me to keep going and to keep building. And so even if you don't choose to support us, go find something you're passionate about, go find a community that you're passionate about, and go tell them that you're passionate about it, because it means everything to people like me and founders like us. So would highly encourage everybody to get involved in the community and find out how you can just say nice things to people to encourage them, and it helps. So that's my, I have to give that speech every time for sure.
That's awesome, Chandler. So what marketing strategies are you using for this NFT launch?
So like I said, we gave ourselves 23 days We had never built community. We had never marketed before, and we gave ourselves, it's like 22 or 23 days up to our NFT launch. And so when we talk about marketing strategies, that wasn't exactly a giant playbook of marketing strategies we had. It was just kind of like a, hey, do you guys want to take this ride? And we did it. So it was really kind of all about how can we reach the most eyeballs first. We have a huge advantage as Sparkadia and as Eden Brawl of we have great content. People watch the video, people learn about us. It's generally a pretty high conversion. And so we knew that was our strength. And so it was truly a matter of how do we just hit the most eyeballs possible? And I think by far one of the biggest beauties about Web3 and about NFTs and all that stuff is it allows people like us to be on an equal footing as some of like the gigantic large studios because we're able to crowdfund really, really easily. And so we basically set out, we created a giveaway campaign and we said, hey, we can give away all these NFTs. We may not have the money right now. We may not be able to pay for marketing, but we can give away stuff and we can incentivize users by giving away NFTs. So hosted a giant giveaway campaign and contacted absolutely everyone we knew and said, hey, we will give your community NFTs if you just talk about us. We'll do an AMA, we'll do an interview, we'll do show matches, we'll play the game with your community and we'll give them more free stuff. And the spider web just started. So we kind of like saw this, you know, slow and steady growth. And then as more and more channels got active, it just kind of hockey sticked. And it's been so fun. I'm very tired. I have 4 days left of my my world tour here. I don't know how like rock stars do it because I'm beat. But it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life is to see the growth of the community through this, just from asking. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Chandler. And I'll drop links to the game. Follow Chandler, support them, cheer them on, and love to see you succeed on this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
All right. If you like this video and looking for more tips and strategies, subscribe to our channel and reach out to our Crowdcreate team to see how we can help your NFT project.